Hey everybody, Jonathan Cummings here from the Troubadour's Journey. What's new and exciting? Today we're going to get into a little bit of quantum physics, which is a part of this story. It's a part of, it's definitely one of the four life sciences as I see them, as I kind of envision them in my own life psychology, if you will. And we're going to start that right here on the Troubadour's Journey. We're going to start that lesson. I'll be back here in 15 seconds. So quantum physics sounds like a great big topic. It is. Let me just start off by saying I'm not a scientist or a theoretical physicist or anything like that. However, most theoretical physicists don't understand quantum mechanics themselves. They'll tell you that quantum physics is not only stranger than you think, it's stranger than you can think. And the appropriate place to start, because other people start here, the problem is other people end here. We're not going to end here. We're going to go way down the rabbit hole, but the place to start is with the double slit experiment. And if you don't know what that is, just look it up on YouTube. There's probably 1,000 videos that explain the double slit experiment. It was something that was done back in the 1900s, early 1900s. Even Einstein himself had a big problem with quantum physics because he didn't believe it. And whether you believe it or not, it happens in laboratories every day all over the world. So once you watch a video on the double slit experiment and understanding really what that is, really the next place to go would be to understand what is actually happening. And it is so simple. It is so simple to understand. It's hard to believe, but it is very, very simple to understand, and it really is this. When you are not observing quantum particles, which is particles that are extremely, extremely small, when you're not looking at them, they're not particles. They're wavicles or waves. Sometimes scientists explain them as little fuzzy packets of possibility. But back in the day, when they first did the experiment, they actually saw that they were actually behaving just like waves. When you observe these particles, they become particles. They become things. This is the kind of thought that led Dr. Wayne Dyer to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? Because that is the reality of the situation. So there is experiments that are done today that even take that experiment even farther. And they have actually figured out a way to see what would happen if you emit a photon and you don't observe it. It doesn't have an observer, but the observer then observes it after it goes through the slit. And what they have determined is that what happens at that point is that the photon is a wave that goes through the slit. The moment that it is observed, it goes back in time, comes out of the photon emitter again, and is a particle. So what I'm telling you is this stuff it's stranger than you can think. But don't worry about all of that. Don't worry about all of that. I don't know how my car works. I'm not an auto mechanic, but I still drive my car. You don't have to understand quantum mechanics in order to be able to use it in your everyday life. And because that's what I have done. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Dr. Wayne Dyer is absolutely correct. And not only that, but this is actually something that all of the ancient people knew about, right? It's just that we, with today's thinking and our scientific thinking, our Newtonian scientific thinking, it becomes very difficult for us to grasp this concept. But it led great thinkers to say things like thoughts are things, right? When you put your attention on something that is in the quantum world, it begins to act as if you are observing it, because you're observing it. It stops being a fuzzy packet of possibility. It stops being a wave. It stops behaving like a wave, and it becomes a particle. It becomes a piece of matter. Don't try to understand it. It's proved in science labs everywhere. It's already proven. Don't say, well, that's impossible. See, the moment you say that's impossible, it becomes a wave again. Right? I mean, this is the reality of reality. This is the science of science. This is the stuff that somehow we humans, since the dawn of time, somehow knew. And now science is finally being able to explain what it actually is. So when you put your attention on something that exists in the quantum world, and when I say put your attention on something that exists in the quantum world, what I'm really talking about is something that doesn't exist yet, something that has not yet existed in reality. And you're putting your attention in it, and you're putting your focus on it, it stops becoming a fuzzy packet of possibility, and it starts to become something that can exist in the material world. This is really how manifestation works from the quantum mechanical level. So let's go back again to the example about writing a book, for example. The book doesn't exist. But if you continue thinking about it, which means you're putting your attention upon it, it means you are observing it from the quantum aspect. You're actually changing it from something that doesn't exist into something that does exist. And this all happens, like I've said before, because you're working on the fertile soil of your mind. You're thinking about the thing. You keep obsessing over it. You can't stop thinking about it. You try to stop thinking about it and you can't, right? So what begins to happen is that thought that you're thinking at that point actually starts to become something that is about to manifest itself into the real world. Now, in order to do that, once again, you have to plant that seed. You have to take the seed and plant it, which again, it has an emotional look to it. It's that moment where you get to that point where you say, I am going to do this. I am going to make this happen. And again, as I've alluded to before, that moment really can't be forced. It has to be something that happens naturally. Believe me, once you get to the point to where you're ready to plant that seed, it'll happen. It'll happen effortlessly. It'll happen just naturally because it's a natural, the next natural step of what it is that you're doing. So let's think about this again. You have a quantum particle, which is nothing more than a packet of possibility, something that doesn't even exist in the real world. It's non-existent. And as you put your attention on it, and as you think about it, and as you start to observe it, what does observe it mean? Well, you start to visualize. What is it going to look like when it's finished? What is it going to look like as you go through the process? All of these things have to be visualized. They have to be very, very vivid images in your mind of what is going on through this process of manifestation. So, once again, the double slit experiment, this first aspect, what I call stage one of quantum physics, and we're going to get into quantum entanglement, which is another thing that freaked Einstein out, and a lot of other aspects of this science. But like I said, it is very easy to understand. It's hard to believe, but it's easy to understand. But it's not hard to believe once you realize that scientists all over the world are proving that this happens. every single day in their laboratories. And it's just this simple. What exists in the quantum world is little packets of fuzzy possibility. It's quanta. It's like a wavicle. It's like a non-thing. But once you put your attention on it, once you observe it, once you start agitating it with your observation, it no longer is a packet of possibility. It starts becoming a physical reality. It's that simple. This is not foo-foo. This is not magic. This is hard science that is being proved in every laboratory all over the world. So let's stop right there with this double slit experiment. I don't want to go any further than that on this video. I don't want to make these videos too long. But just realize that the business you want to start, or the book you want to write, or the character that you want to create within yourself, or the relationship that you want to have with someone, or anything that you want to create in your life, it doesn't yet exist. It is a fuzzy packet of possibility. And in order for it to come into the real world, you need to start observing it. Observing it means picturing it in your mind. Don't worry about how it works. Don't worry about the fact that it sounds mystical or magical. This is the way that the world, this is the way the universe works. This is it. Okay? So, think about that for a few days before we get on to the next video. And hope you're all doing well. Take care of each other. And remember, don't die with your song still in you.